Dr. Mel, and welcome to Dr. Mel's Message. Today, for the second time, I have a fabulous author by the name of Pamela Roberts. Now, if you remember, and we will talk about it again, I previously talked with her and I learned all about her book, Darkness of Dawn. Well, we have a surprise for you, but I'll hold off on that. So, welcome, Pamela. How are you today?
I'm great, and I'm so glad to see you again.
Oh, I am glad to see you. I mean, the last time we said we could talk for hours about things, and so I'm glad we're having the second interview, and I can't wait to unveil our surprise news. But first, let's just bring everybody up to date with us. Tell us a little bit about Darkness at Dawn.
Yeah, the Darkness at Dawn is a story that I've always wanted to write. My basically because my grandfather was very interested in our family tree, and he's in my family tree now. But before, he was very interested in his grandfathers and fathers, and he passed that along to me when I was in high school, and it was very interesting to learn about these to me that were real life people that had real life existence, and that's exactly how you learn about your family tree. You begin to start bringing to life the people in that family tree and understanding how the various branches interact together. If you miss that opportunity when you're young, it gets harder because you have so many things you have to do in your life as you get older. You don't have time to do that.
Right.
But I, fortunately, when I moved out here with my husband Matt from Washington, D.C., after I retired from the Department of Justice as a trial attorney, when we moved out here, I had found out that I had time to actually do the kind of work on constructing a family tree, learning about the characters, and learning about the times they lived in, because that's oftentimes what people that are interested in their family tree fail to do. They fail to branch out beyond just that little character that they're developing a story about, and they don't come up across others that they might find more interesting information from in the study of their family tree as well. So that got me interested in the subject matter, which is the history of the 1600s, and that's the time that the Puritans had moved out from England to actually from East Anglia, which is the period or the part of England that is separated, at least structurally and socially, from other parts of Great Britain, and that's the part that my family from that period found a ship called the Isabel, and they took that ship all the way to Boston. And in the book, in my novel, The Darkness at Dawn, I write about the storms that they had to deal with, the people that they had to deal with, and one character in the book that becomes the predominant villain of the book is also discovered during that time, and so he and my ancestor John Lee continue that relationship between them, and it's a strained relationship because John wants to be good. I mean, that's his problem. But Richard Hawkes, who is the villain of the book, and who John runs into on the ship, Francis is the name of the Francis. And actually, in my research, I found every single person that was on that ship on that voyage. Yeah.
Wow. Wait, let's back up a minute. So yeah, we are talking about number one, an historical novel, but based off of real facts, meaning your ancestry.
Yeah, real people.
That's what I mean. Real people that goes all the way back to the 1600s.
That's right.
Now the ship, the Isabel, right?
Now it's the Francis.
The Francis.
The Isabel ship sailed as a parallel ship until they had a big storm, and then the Isabel had to get out of there before it got sunk.
How many passengers were on that ship?
About 80 on each ship.
And where did it sail from, and where did it land?
It sailed from East Anglia, which is where we had all of our bombers assigned during World War II. And East Anglia is obviously, as it says, on the eastern coast of Great Britain. And they sailed on the Francis, and they sailed about halfway, and Richard Hawks, the villain, of course, then began to do villainous things, and I won't go into all that. But while he was on the ship, he tended to try to take advantage of everything he could, and in this case, he thought he had avoided having to clean the ship's deck, because he hid when they came around looking for him to swab the deck, the lower deck. And he never got around to doing that, but he did hide out until he reached Boston. And then when he got to Boston, the first thing he wanted to do was to take his henchmen. He had two henchmen, Eastman and oh God, I'm trying to remember the name of the other villain. And it's in the book, so just buy the book and you can read it. But
there you go. Now,
actually,
you have been you've been quite busy lately, right?
Yes, I have. I've been doing jury duty, grand jury duty, and I got to go back tomorrow and do some more of it. And
Wow.
and I've been doing that, and I used to be on the board of the city's planning and zoning commission. That was a very busy activity, but I realized I couldn't write two books and promote two books at the same time that I'm writing another one. So I quit at least working initially on A Light at Midnight, which is the second book I'm working on, and it also takes place in that period, in that time, and in that place.
Is it related to the other one, or is it a standalone?
Yeah, many of the characters that are in The Darkness at Dawn reappear in A Light at Midnight, and they're doing some of the same things that they were doing in the other place. Like farming was the same, and all this various other stuff. Okay. But in order, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just curious. When's your expectation date for publication for The Light at Midnight?
By the end of the summer. I'm about ready now to do some serious outlining for that book. My primary focus until I got it published late last year, The Darkness at Dawn, my primary focus was on getting that book done. And I did move it up, and I did get a lot of writing done just before the end of the summer when I had to basically stop working on that book. But I'm coming back to it. It's the best book I've ever not written yet.
Okay, the best undiscovered book not written yet. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I like
good.
that.
Yeah.
And as long as it's in your mind, that means you're moving forward. Now, I'm speaking as a writer myself on this.
Good. Yeah. Well, you can write my book for me.
Oh, no. I have plenty of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I'm always encouraged, and I love speaking with authors such as yourself that not only come from what I call the legalese world, as a judge, lawyer, etc.
Right.
Because you'll bring a different twist to things that I don't think even I do. So I love that part of your writing style, and I love the historical aspects because nowadays, with the cancel culture, etc., no one wants to visit the past. Yeah. And yet there's a tremendous amount of knowledge to be had with that.
Oh, there is, and it's exciting knowledge. It's
exactly.
And for me, the opportunity to start on a new chapter for a new book is exciting because it gives me the opportunity to relate what I'm going to be writing to what I've already written and to what I've been thinking about writing. Like, for example, if you read the cover of the back of the book, whether soft cover or hardcover, you'll see that there is a summary of the story.
We're talking about Darkness
at Dawn.
Okay.
And you'll see that there's a summary of the story, and then and then, I mean, not a lengthy summary, but a brief summary of the story and the conflict between John Lee and Richard Hawks and his henchmen and Eastman and Roach. And I gave them nice names. Roach.
Oh, that's not too bad. It has sometimes when we name our characters, we have something very specific in mind.
Yeah.
I know that I name certain characters based on what their names mean.
Oh, well,
You know,
I'll let you use Roach. Go ahead. Just write me a letter. I'll write back. Okay, go ahead, music.
well, I'll just put you in the acknowledgement section
Yeah, that you can do that. That's
because he
fine.
sounds
But
like a creepy villain to me.
yeah, he is. He
Yeah,
is.
see,
He's the biggest of the villains.
he's the
And he's
biggest of the
strong.
biggest.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
well,
strongest. Yeah.
now,
So
does he follow through?
he follows Hawks. Hawks is the leader.
Okay,
And Hawks, at the time of the story starts, is 19 years old. So he's old enough to boss around, juveniles.
all
Like
right.
he's,
So make sure I get this right because I don't want to mislead our readers here. First of all, with the darkness of dawn, we have these characters. So do they age in a life at midnight?
they age somewhat. I mean, certainly they have to age to function in their world. I mean, and they
Right.
do. They do. And Hawks keeps his villainous temperament and never really changes. He's looking for opportunities to make money, to steal money, to do anything he can to to take advantage of the people that are around him who aren't watching him carefully enough.
All right. Yeah, this is what I want to ask you. With these two books, okay, have you seen any similarities to the way people act in today's world versus how they act in 1600s?
Yes, I have. I have.
Can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, and the reason why I have is because my career has been as a lawyer and as judge, and
Right.
so I get to see these characters before they're truly bad, and then I get to see them when they're truly bad, and then I see how John Lee's relationship with William Westwood, who is his guardian at the time
Okay.
of the start of the book, and William Westwood, um, you know, is a mentor to John Lee as well, and also to to um, to to the person that lives with John Lee up in the attic. That's when they come over on the ship and they get to Westwood's house. Westwood insists that the two boys go upstairs and set up beds on the floor and that sort of stuff. So they do, and then the book carries on from there as a book of discovery, in that both boys get a wagon loaned to them by William, and they go ahead and they start trudging off behind the horses, and they're heading off to get around the river James, and to get around the river, they got to go way upstream, and that's where they're told they can cross, and
Right.
so they make that crossing, and then they come down into what is now Boston, and they find William, and William puts them up in the attic, and that's where they live until such time as each one of them finds friends, lovers, and that sort of thing.
Incredible. I tell you what, I cannot wait now to the end of the summer. Normally, I want the summer to take as long as possible,
Yeah, yeah.
but I cannot wait. And you got to promise me that when the second book, A Light Midnight, comes out, you give me a call so I can buy it, number one. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to promise me that you send me an autographed copy too. I don't mind buying it. I just want an autographed copy.
I'll give you an autograph coffee, and I'll sign coffee. I'll give you a cup of coffee, and I'll sign it. so, so anyway, yeah, don't get me confused here because I'm trying to run through that thread of consciousness that's left in my
Okay.
brain, which is deteriorating quickly every day. But so yeah, at about that point when they moved to Boston, that's when things start happening. That's when they have a disease. I don't know what kind of disease it is that strikes the town of Boston, and which is where most people settled after they landed, on the Francis, and and so yeah, and so what happens at that point is that John really is worried about what's going to happen in Boston because another one of William Westwood's, I guess, children, or he's the guardian for her, I should say. That's easier to get across. But William Westwood is the guardian for her as well, and so John feels responsible for her, and I don't remember her name. I'm sorry, but it'll be in the book. Trust me. And so what happens is that Hawks threatens John, to kill her, both on the ship and also when they're in Boston. And so John decides he has to kill Hawks to avoid that happening. And so there's a couple chapters that are taken by him getting ready to kill Hawks and trying to figure out some way to do it, and this, that, and the other. And so that basically finishes the first part of the book. John's first confronting Richard Hawks and learning how people live in New England, how they take care of things. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of John trying to get on good terms with Reverend Hooker, who is the Reverend that is their church's Reverend, and he stays in the book for a while, Reverend Hooker, um, and so yeah, I mean, fortunately for John, because Hooker has a lot of information to impart to John about the church and about basically taking John's confession that there is an evil man that he has let, stay with the congregation. So,
You know what I love about interviewing you?
what?
When you talk and you talk about your books and your characters, you make it seem so believable that these are real living people. And I love that. And your writing showcases that as well.
Good, thank you.
And
No.
I love
Um,
that part.
yeah, no. I really had to do a lot of research about the Puritan religion, and and uh, and then once I had, I like to write things out. Like, you know, when I have Richard Hawks, I write all I can about what his characteristics are like, what he looks like, this, that, and the other. And for his henchmen, I don't much care. They're going to get dead in the end. That's, forget I said that.
No, okay, I'll forget
Maybe
about it.
it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back. Who knows?
All
So,
right.
yeah, but so I'm trying to. Yeah, I remember my grandfather. Besides telling me all about the Puritans, about John Lee, and who was, his grandfather, my great grandfather, and um, so we actually, my husband Matt and I went to the cemetery where John Lee's buried in in Farmington, Connecticut, and that's where I gave a presentation to the Farmington Historical Society, which was
Wow.
as well. They knew very little about that town and their relatives that had lived there before. They asked me if I would go and give them a tour of the cemetery, and my only thought was, I only know like three or four people in here. Yeah, because I didn't do a tour of the cemetery.
Right.
I knew some of the people that were buried there. Like the biggest monument in that cemetery is to John Lee, and and
Now you
it's
have a picture of that cemetery on the
yeah,
cover of Darkness to Dawn, right?
yes,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's got his name on it, John Lee,
John?
and so yeah, I gave a presentation to the Farmington Historical Society last year, and it went very well. They enjoyed it a lot. They bought a lot of books, which is good. And so yeah, that was why we went there. And I remember the flight back overnight. I hate those overnight flights. All the way back from Connecticut. There's a big airport in Connecticut, and we flew back overnight from Connecticut to El Paso, and then we drove up back home up here in in our little town here. So yeah, so that's in a nutshell what the story's about. But the story goes on. It goes on because John Lee is somebody who wants to achieve in life. He doesn't want to just go through life, and he is constantly trying to find ways that he can help people, help his congregation, help William Westwood and his family. Anybody that needs help, John is there to help them. You know, he's the guy that people go to do the house buildings, you know, help them erect the homes that they're going to live in. And so he's the kind of neighbor you'd like to have. Okay,
Wow.
but he's also in the Farmington Guard, you know, National
Mhm.
Guard or whatever, and he's always at the front of whatever battle they're involved in, whether it's with Native Americans or whether it's with Hawks and his people. You're going to see a lot of these same characters. I mentioned them all, and they're all going to be in the next book because I think that it's important that they have an afterlife of sorts.
I think that is perfect. And for those of you that are been watching, again, I am talking with author Pamela Roberts, and her current book, Darkness Design. No, sorry, Darkness to Dawn.
Pamela Roberts Lee, get the lady in. If
Oh,
they're going to do research, they need to have the last name Lee. L-E.
Pamela Roberts Lee.
That's it. Yeah,
Okay, and you can buy the books over on Amazon.
that's right.
And just the first one right now. But come this August, stay tuned because she has that brand new book coming out. Again, I want to thank Strat Advertising for coming aboard with this and helping authors get the word out for all of us. And I want to thank you, Pamela
Oh,
Robert.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, no, thank
For
you.
coming forward.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
All right.